What's up, YouTube? Appreciate you watching. So if you want to pass the PMP, you must read the PMBOK from cover to cover. No, I'm bullshit. So yeah, so you can pass the PMP. It's a tough test. It's tough because it's long. Study for 2 weeks, 2 solid weeks. You can watch the same training videos that I did. I'm telling you, 2 weeks and you can pass this test. I thought about it a couple of weeks ago and started watching videos, and a couple weeks later, I PMP certified, right? Obviously, it's a career's worth of projects, right, that you have to complete. There's a certain number of projects you have to complete that goes along with it. But as far as like passing the exam, 2 weeks. I know folks say give yourself a couple months, go to these boot camps that cost thousands of dollars or classes and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. Like if classroom learning is best for you and you want to spend that kind of money, that's great. But remember, the test is $555. LinkedIn Learning, I believe, gives you 30 days of free. And if not, I think it's only like $29 a month. You can finish the classes easily in a month. You can finish it in a couple of days. If you just, dedicate a couple hours every day, you can definitely do it and then pass the exam for sure. It's a 4-hour exam, 200 questions. I'm sure by now, if you've been looking into it, you know that it's long. You feel every last one of those minutes sitting in that chair, reading those long ass questions, but it's definitely achievable, right? I remember when I first heard about the PMP, I thought like, oh man, it's gonna be so tough to get. I know, everyone thinks about the dollar signs that are associated with it, and if that's your motivation, then shit, go for it, for sure. But yeah, I remember looking into it a few years ago and looking at the education requirements and me being a high school dropout. I'm like, man, that seems impossible. And I must have misread it because I thought it said that you had to have an associate's degree, which I do not. So I thought maybe it wasn't really achievable. Then I reread it and saw that you needed a high school diploma or a GED, and I didn't have that either. So last year I went and passed the GED. So I looked into it again. I'm in Chicago here, and we're in a stay-at-home order, lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it. And I was bored, to be completely honest. I was bored, and I stumbled upon some training on LinkedIn Learning that was offered through my company. So I took a look at it and I saw some PMP training class. I'm like, oh, okay, let me revisit that. And so I went and looked at the requirements again, and I saw like, oh, okay, you can have a GED, work in, for however many years and have however many projects, however many hours, whatever, et cetera, you know what the requirements are. You got to have so many years of experience, and you need to have so many project hours completed as managing, leading projects. So I thought like, okay, I've been working in this field for a long time, and I've been doing projects all the way back since probably like 2010, somewhere around there. And so I'm like, okay, let me give it a shot. Let me listen to this training and see how difficult it is, because of course I'm thinking that the test is really difficult. And I haven't done any research yet. I'm just really looking at the requirements, and then I turn on the training because, like I said, we're in the lockdown and I was bored, right? So I walk the dog a couple times a day. So, go to the store every now and again. And I got tired of listening to podcasts and music. So I decided like, let me listen to something that's gonna educate me. So that's when I, happened upon the LinkedIn Learning. And I found the PMP courses, and I thought, well, that's cool, I'll listen to it. So I started listening to it on the computer, and I thought like, oh, this is pretty straightforward. It's just the mechanics of a project with some, fancy terminology around it. And I thought, okay, not too bad. So then I thought like, I wonder if they have an app, because everyone has an app. So LinkedIn Learning does have an app. I found the training, you can actually download it to your phone, so it makes it great. So if you're offline, you can listen to the videos and watch them and whatever. And you can actually like lock your phone screen and put your phone in your pocket and just listen to it. So I would do that, listen to it as I walk the dog, and I thought like, this is pretty straightforward. I could do this pretty easy. So let me figure out, and that's what I'm thinking to myself, is gonna be easy, right? So I'm thinking like, yeah, I could probably do this. Doesn't seem like incredibly difficult, just, a lot of different terminology and a lot of, you got to understand the flow of the process. So I get it. So I thought, yeah, let me get through this training, and I'll take the practice exam at the end of the training that was offered by LinkedIn Learning as a part of the PMP exam prep course. So I got to the end of the training. I took the prep course. I took the pre-exam, and they let you choose to take it timed or untimed for 4 hours, just like to simulate the real exam with 200 questions. So I thought, well, shit, let me just try it. So I went through it, took about 3 hours or so, and I got a 55%. I'm thinking like, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, well, this was just listening to the videos, and like, I'm not watching the PowerPoint presentations that she's putting on. So these are actual like videos, and she gives a good presentation, and there's a bunch of slides with the documentation to support what she's saying, and the diagrams and just the definitions for some of the terms that are not necessarily said out loud but are written there. So I didn't watch any of that. I just listened to it as I walked. And this is probably about 3 days after I started it. I finished it. It was about a 6.5 hour course, I believe, from start to finish. So got the 55%, and I thought like, okay, let me do some more research online about this application, because I'm feeling pretty confident at this point. So then I look into the application process, and obviously you got to calculate all them damn project hours. Like, that shit sucks. I'm gonna be honest, unless you're lucky enough to have like worked on one project or two projects that are long. If you got a bunch of little individual projects, man, that shit sucks, and you got to like figure out the math. It's crazy. But I found some good templates online, and I'll share which one I use that obviously worked well for me. But there's a lot of good formats out there that I think can help you, and it puts you at ease when you after you read what the requirements are for the application. Once you see how to format it and what other folks did, it kind of puts you at ease. And probably took about 2 days to like jot down like all of the projects that I had worked on over my career, and calculate the hours, and write down what the project was about, my involvement. And yeah, so then I reached out to a couple of folks at some of my previous employers just to give them a heads up, like, hey, I'm applying for this. There's a possibility that my application gets audited. I'd like to use you as a reference. And of course, that wasn't an issue at all. And yeah, so submitted the application. About 3 days later, it was approved. No audit. So that was great. And now comes scheduling and paying for the damn exam. So it's $555 for the exam, or $129 for membership, and $405 for the exam. But with membership, you get the PMBOK guide. And so like to this point, I hadn't even looked at this book, right? Not even one time. I watched went through the training, and I watched a couple of YouTube videos. So I thought I probably should download the book, right? To make sure that what I'm actually listening to and learning is actually in the guide, because that's what the test is based on. So I thought, let me do the membership, and plus since the test is so discounted, it comes out to be the same price anyway. So whatever. And shit, like if I get membership, what if I fail the test? Then I could take the exam again at the discounted rate instead of paying $555 again. So little slight hedge. So I decided to get the membership, download the book, scheduled the exam for about a week out, right? So this has been about a week. And so I scheduled the exam for about a week out. And look at the PMBOK guide and kind of just like glance through like the beginning page or two, like the real pages, not like the introduction and shit, and just make sure like the words that are being used in the video is the same terminology, and just like confirm that. I'm like, all right, so I'm probably good. And then I started watching more YouTube videos, and so then I thought, okay, so I got about a week. I'm gonna actually take this studying seriously. I'm gonna go through the training again from the beginning, module by module. And this training is great because they break it down by every single knowledge group, each one, and go through each process and each process group of how it flows into each other. And I mean, like, you get a lot just from listening to it, but if you actually go through it and watch it and take notes from every single lesson, it helps you remember the terminology. You know how they say, read it, write it, say it, helps you remember it. So I went through it, and don't get me wrong, like, understanding how the process management wasn't very tough because of my background and what I've been doing for the past, 10, 11 years. But it's not incredibly difficult. It's really not. Is it a lot of memorization? Yeah, but you don't have to, like, I saw some videos that said like you should like sing these songs and like remember the acronyms for writing down each process. Me personally, I don't find any real value in knowing what the words say if I don't know what it means. So like, if it works for you, that's great. But I think like a better way is to just understand the material, and it's not incredibly difficult to understand. I promise, it's really not. There's some really cool YouTube videos and that LinkedIn Learning. I think you can even like sign up for free for like a month. I recommend it highly. So go through the training, I take all my notes, and then I take the practice exam again on LinkedIn, and I get a 65, so I'm like, damn, better, right? 10% better, but not where I thought I was and not where I wanted to be. But then just because the practice exam was exactly the same on LinkedIn, same questions and everything, but I didn't want to just learn what the answers were. I wanted to actually learn the material. So, but I was only 10% better at that point. So, but what I realized as I was going through the exam is I understood what the questions were much better than I did the first time, even the ones that I got right. Like I got it right just based on like kind of like instinct. I want to say like, it's like, this is probably the right answer, right? But then I looked at, but then I remembered like the things that I really didn't know from that second practice exam. Like when it asked questions that I really just didn't know, or didn't know what document it was actually or referring to. I focused on those things when I continued my studying. So I probably had about 3 days left until the test. So I'm like, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch those chapters over again. I'm gonna focus on those things, take some additional notes, go to YouTube, find specific videos for those specific processes and knowledge groups that I may have been lacking on, which for me was cost, scope, and risk. So once I did that, then I took another practice exam online and got a 67%, and I was feeling pretty okay about it. And then I started Googling, and I found someone on some blog that said if you can get over 50% on this practice exam, the one that I had just got a 67 on, then that shit, you're doing pretty well, because this one is extremely hard. And I thought like, okay, I felt pretty confident. So again, the questions that I got wrong on that practice exam that I found online, and I'll link it in the description. I focused on those subjects again, which were the same, risk and cost and stuff, and just kind of got a good understanding on that. And from there, I felt, like I'm ready to go, right? I'm just gonna take the exam. If I fail, then shit, well, all right, well then at least they'll give me a breakdown of what I need to work on, and I'll take it again, right? Not a big deal, it's just a test. So I scheduled the exam. They let me take it at home. I took it literally right here in the same room, in the same spot. I mean, I had a little makeshift desk set up on top of some luggage, and the exam was 4 hours. And the questions were very, very similar to the questions on the practice exam on LinkedIn and the one online and all the other ones online. Like, folks are definitely setting you up for success with those practice questions. Like, because most of them are real life situational questions, right? They want you to think as a project manager, how would you act in this specific situation? What would you do? And yeah, they do get into some specifics. What document would you grab? What type of document would you hand this person? If they're looking for this type of information, where can they find it? And what part of the process are you if you're identifying these documents? Like, those kind of things are asked on the test. So you want to remember some documentation, but just like the key documents that you see everyone talking about on YouTube and again on the LinkedIn Learning, she specifically says like, here's something you're likely to see on the exam when she goes through each module. That stuff is spot on, right? I'm guessing there's a lot of stuff in the PMBOK guide, but I did not read it. I do not plan on reading it. It's a long, boring looking book. You can understand the material without having to read it. But I mean, if you're a book reader and you're into like, if you're able to learn in that manner, then by all means read the book, right? Like, who am I to tell you not to read? But I don't learn best that way. For me, I like an instructor, and that virtual instruction is just great. But however, those key documents and stuff that are highlighted pretty much everywhere are important for sure. Risk is important, understanding the risk register and risk reports, and what processes the risk reports and risk registers are handled in. Understand the difference between the qualitative and quantitative risk. A lot of the questions are definitely like leadership and just think like a project manager. Like, what would you do in this situation? So there's some answers that will say like do nothing. Obviously that's never an answer, but they always just want you to do the right thing. So if you keep that in mind, like those questions will be a breeze. If there's a conflict to be resolved, and you use your conflict management tool, right? It may ask you what tool and technique do you use when you're solving a dispute between a customer and someone else, right? And like, you use out of the choices, you're going to know which tool you're probably going to use, and it's probably going to be your conflict resolution or conflict management. Or if it's a question about two companies that two different organizations from two different walks of life or two different parts of the earth are having an issue, what skill would you use, or what tool and technique would you use? You use your cultural awareness, right? So all that stuff matters, but like that stuff's easy to remember, right? For the most part, if you're taking this exam, you probably have some experience. So as a project manager, you have to manage people, you have to manage projects, and you have to be a leader. So there's a lot of questions on that. You'll be fine on those. Formulas. I didn't remember any of them. I guessed on every single one of them. I remember earned value, understand what that meant. I understand estimate at completion, high level cost variation. But as far as I remember the formulas, how to calculate that shit, you can remember it if you're good at math. If you're good at that stuff, great. I didn't find it valuable. I figured I'll take my chances at being good at everything else, and you'll be great. Understand, like high level in each knowledge area, right? Just high level. You don't have to get down to the details. Like I never looked at a scope baseline document to actually see what it is on there line for line, right? Because the exam doesn't ask you for that. It may ask a question like, which document do you give a customer that wants the high level understanding of what's in scope, right? Is that the scope baseline or is that the scope statement? Understanding the difference of those two is more important than actually knowing what the meat and potatoes are of a scope baseline. Process knowledge management, knowledge area. Just expert judgment is, I saw that a lot. Tools and techniques, remember your meetings are important, right? Project managers want to be face-to-face as much as possible. So whenever there's a question that has that as an answer, in some shape or form, that's probably the answer. But again, like the test is it's not incredibly difficult, it's just incredibly long. If you get a really good high level understanding of each one of those knowledge areas, you'll be fine, you'll pass. And if you don't, fuck it, take it again. Like who the fuck cares, take it again. You'll know exactly what to expect on the second one, but you will be able to pass for sure. If you have any specific questions, please let me know. That's my story. I don't think it's too difficult. You got this. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take the PMP. Go do it. If you've been thinking about it and you just been thinking it's too tough and bullshitting, go do it. Go take that damn test. You'll be pleasantly surprised. I read something that said 40 or 50% people fail. Not if you really get a really good understanding and try not to like kill yourself with memorizing all the processes, but get a real good high level understanding of everything, you'll pass. Thank you.